Hi there, everyone. My name is Manav, and if you don't know me, I scored perfectly on the SAT and have taught the SAT for 5 years, so I know a thing or two about how to solve percentage questions on the SAT. And I have making a separate topic for this specific topic because I have seen even my smartest students get tripped up by this time and time again just because the cases can blend together so well. So without ado, let's just move forth into the actual content. So the three cases that all my students kind of trip up with are these right here. These three cases that you see on the screen right now are all distinct, right? So for case one, it's really going to be when you see the word of, right? So this is the simplest case when you can directly take this percentage of x you see here and convert it to a decimal from a percentage. Move that decimal place to the left twice, and then just multiply by the base number. In this case, is 200. So you'd have, like, let's see, if this was 10% of 200, right? You just do 0.1 times 200, right? And you'd end up with 20. Super light, really simple, and the other cases involve a second intermediate step, right? So the second case is when you hear things like x is greater than or greater than 200, or x percent increased over or on 200, right? For these, you should think tax, right? So think of almost you have a subtotal that you are checking out with at CVS, for example, right? And you paid $100, and then there's a 10% tax. You're gonna add it on top, okay? So the visualization that I really love for this one is kind of like this. You have 100%, right, of your subtotal right here, okay? This is your subtotal at CVS, right? And then you end up with this tax, right? You end up with this lovely tax on top, which is the 10% that the government is forcing you to pay, right? And then in total, what do you end up with? Let's look here. On the right side, if I add up the total percentage over here, obviously this is not the scale, but you actually end up with 110%, right? So you end up paying over your initial amount, right? Because it's a tax, right? So let's zoom out and let's actually take care of this example as if it was 10% greater than 200, right? In this case, what you would do is have that 110%. So that's 1.1 in terms of a decimal, right? And you'd multiply that by 200, and then you get 220, okay? That is your second case. The other case is the opposite of the second. This is basically the less than case, right? So you can see less than, or you can see X percentage decreased on 200 and so on, right? And for this, I want you to think of a discount, okay? I want you to think of a 20% off coupon in the store when you're checking out that is deducted from the 100% that you're paying, right? So let's have a visual on this one more time, because I think the visuals are honestly the best way to always go about this. Say you have this 100%, right? This 100% is the items you have on your checkout cart at Macy's, for example, right? And they have those famous 20% off coupons, right? And this piece over here is that 20% that you are no longer paying, okay? So we can just simply get rid of this. What is left after that? What is left is the 80% that you just chopped off, right? So now you will pay the 80%, therefore you should multiply that by your subtotal, okay? So let's go back to the question up there, and let's do it as if you're paying 10% less than 200. What you'd multiply by is actually, what did I use in the example? I used 20 in the example, but let's be consistent and use 10% here. 10% less than 200 means 100% less the 10% you're paying, the 10% discount, which means you're paying 90%, and you'd just pay 0.9 times 200, okay, which I think is 180, right? So there we go. That's the three cases pretty much. And let's dive into a couple questions, okay? In summary, I'm going to also add two tidbits of information that are actually going to save you a lot of time. But in math, or word problems, you can consider like a multiplication. And is going to be like an equal sign, greater than think tax, and less than think a discount. Okay, so those are your 4 little word cues that are going to be extremely helpful on the SAT. Okay, so let's dive into some actual practice questions now. All right, so a store has 240 items in stock, right? Let me move my head down here. There we go. If 35% are on sale, how many items are on sale, right? So there are 240 items, right? And 35 of those are on sale, right? So you notice how I said of, which hints that this will actually be like the first case, which is the of, not the greater than or less than case, right? So this is going to be pretty simple. This is going to be the simplest example that we will have here. This is going to be 240 times 0.35, which let me just get on my calculator. Let me figure out what that is. 240 times 0.35 will leave you with 84 items being on sale. Okay, so 84 items will be on sale here. Okay, next. So this year's enrollment is 20% greater than last year's enrollment of 350 students. How many students are enrolled this year? Okay, so we have last year's enrollment. This is the 350 students that were there, and this is obviously 100% of itself, right? So this is 100% of that previous last year's class. This year is 20% greater than it, right? Which means that we should add on 20% like this, okay? And what does that end up with in actuality? That leaves us with actually 120%. So if we take 350, multiply it by 1.2, we end up with is going to be 420. 420 students are enrolled in this year's class. Okay, my head's blocking a little bit, but just take my word for it. It's 420, all right? Okay, this is the final case where we have actually a sales price, ding, 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 is 40% less than the original price of 150, right? So what's the sales price? Well, the sales price in this case is going to be 40% less than the original price of 150. So we have our 100 right here. This is 100% because it is what it is, right? It's our 150. Nothing's changed to it. And we'll actually be chopping away this piece, which is 40%, okay? So see you later. That's gone. What is left? What is left is this 60%, right? That still remains. So we must do 150 times 0.6, which gives us 90, right? So the 90 is a new price. It's a great deal, actually, in that case. So yeah, there we go. And now let's look into some actual screenshots I took from the SAT itself, right? So let's look at this first one. The population of Greenville increased by 7% from 2015 to 2016, right? If the 2016 population is K times the 2015 population, what is the value of K, right? So let's take a look. You remember how I said is equal to an equal sign in a mathematical word problem? Well, look what I just found. I found is, okay? So that means I'm going to actually draw a line here, and over here is basically the split of the left and the right side, right? This is going to be the left, and then this is going to be the right, right? So this is going to be K times the 2015 population. So let's put K times population of 2015, right? And this is going to be on the right side 2016 population, right? So population 2016, right? And they said it increased by 7%, which means we basically have our population of 2015, which is going to be 100%, right? And this is going to be the 7% on top here, which is going to be a total of 107%, right? So translating this back into a decimal, we have 1.07, which my head is covering once again, and we will have choice C. Okay, moving on. The population of Greenville. Oh wait, did I copy and paste this one twice? All right, whatever. Let's move on to this last one though. This has tripped up many a student of mine. Okay, almost everyone, honestly, just because they haven't seen something like this, right? So let's read it. The regular price of a shirt at a store is $11.70. The sales price of a shirt is 80% less than the regular price, and the sales price is 30% greater than the store's cost. for the shirt, right? What was the store's cost in dollars for the shirt? So what I like to do for this question is translate each sentence into an expression or equation one by one, right? So again, let's look for our is. That's going to be our equal sign. And we have our left and right side, right? This is going to be the left side, and then this is going to be the right side. The right side is super simple. So the right side is going to be 11.7, right? 11.7. And then we're going to call the right side, this is the regular price of the shirt, nothing funny there, so we'll just put R to represent that, okay? Let's move on to the second sentence here. It says, the sales price of the shirt is 80% less than the regular price, okay? So whereas the is right there, so that's going to be our equal sign. And the left side is just says sales price, so we're just going to put S is equal to 80% less than the regular price, right? I'm just going to keep it in words for now, all right? So it's 80% less than regular price, which means it's a discount case. And if we have 100% less our 80%, let's draw our tower just to make sure we still got it. 100% is what we were paying. There's an 80% discount, so they're chopping off a lot of it right there. Let's take a look. Oops, shit. We were talking about 80% there, and then we are left with 20%, right? So we are paying 20% of the regular price, basically. So this will be 0.2 times R, okay? So I'm going to just erase this middle part here since we actually figured out the second one, right? So let's see if I can move this up or if it's part of the image. Turns out it's part of the image, which is fine, right? And our third one is going to be this right here. Let's take a look at the third and final equation. It's going to be this one. The sales price is 30% greater than the store's cost for the shirt. Well, there I found our equal sign. That's going to be equal. On the left side, we just have the sales price, so that's easy. And this is going to be, on the right side, 30% greater than the cost, right? Which means that we're going to have a tax scenario, right? Almost, or somewhat tax-like scenario, right? We have 100%, and then we have a 30% greater, right? So we're adding on 30% on top, putting a 30% there, and then we end up with 130%, okay? Which means we have to multiply by 1.3, okay? So let's see right there. Let's do S is equal to 1.3 times the cost, which I'll just call C, honestly. And then just to sum up everything, I'll delete that since we know everything now at this point. So let's fall down the ranks, right? We know R already, which is great, which means we can solve for S based off this second equation that we got. So 0.2, right? 0.2 times 11.7 is going to be 2.34, which is right there, 2.34. And if we can replace this with S up here, since we know what S is, we can put this to the side and actually divide by 1.3 here and divide by 1.3 here. And let's do 2.34 divided by 1.3. And that'll give us 1.8 for C, right? Which is our cost and which is what they were asking for, right? So it's going to be $1.80 for the store's cost, okay? So if you really nail this, honestly, this is like easy, I think 30, 40 points on the SAT just because how much it comes up. This is a really good unlock for you guys to really master this and nail it and try to, these questions basically all they're doing is just testing how well you can translate percentages and words into actual expressions, right? So if you do it once, nail it, you'll get all of them right forever, right? All right. Thanks, guys. If you want me to tutor you, you can go to my website or reach out to me over my phone. It's published there. So see you later. Thanks.